What's up, everyone? Today we're at Lake Siskiyou, right next to Mount Shasta, which you can see behind me here. It is a beautiful sunny day, barely any clouds in the sky, which make perfect conditions for astrophotography. So the goal for tonight is to get the northeastern portion of the Milky Way rising above Mount Shasta here. And I'm hoping to use my Nikon Z7 with the 35mm lens, pretty much the same composition I'm using here, to get that time lapse of the Milky Way going above Mount Shasta. Now, I do believe there's barely any light pollution here. I believe it's about a Bordeaux 3 sky, so we'll see how dark it actually gets tonight. I'm really excited to see that. We are in the very north portion of California, so it did take us a few hours to travel up from Sacramento to get here, and this is actually my first time at this location, so I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like here at night, and I'm really excited to see how dark it's going to be and how dark the skies really are here. So that's the goal for tonight. Pretty simple composition here, and we're about 5-minute drive from the campsite, so it's super easy to get to. In the meantime, we're just going to take it easy, enjoy this sunshine, and go back to the tent, make some food, grill some burgers, and take it chill, and then I'll see you guys later tonight. All right, everybody, we made it back to the Milky Way spot. I currently have my Nikon Z7 with the Sigma 35mm lens set up to shoot towards Shasta. I'm just starting to see the northeastern portion of the Milky Way rise above the mountain. So I have my composition set up here, and I'm going to set it on an interval timer shooting to get a nice time lapse of that Milky Way rising above the mountain. I currently have it set at ISO 800 f1.7 at 35mm, and I'm going to do 4-second shutter speeds with about a 7-second interval between each picture. I'm gonna have that going for a couple hours so you get some nice movement in the sky. And then in the meantime, I'm going to set up this current camera that I'm filming with probably a longer focal length lens, like a 50mm, to try to get a more zoomed in picture of that mountain, try to bring out more of those details of that mountain and get that rising Milky Way above that mountain. I may put on the star tracker and get some track shots as well, but I'm actually thinking of just taking it chill tonight with the tracker and just doing some more time lapse and stacking based photography. But this is looking absolutely phenomenal. I'm actually getting a reflection of the stars and the mountain in the water, so the conditions could not be any more perfect. There's no clouds in the sky. It's very little wind, so I'm thinking that this time lapse is going to look absolutely beautiful. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'm going to get to these shots. So unfortunately, this time lapse didn't turn out as good as I hoped because of all of the cars driving by, but the main thing that I dislike about it is the fact that there's so much light pollution on that left-hand side behind those trees, and you can also see some of the smoke from the campfires going up into that sky, and the light is reflecting off of that smoke and creating a weird hazy effect, which is pretty unfortunate, but regardless, I do think this time lapse was still worth shooting. All right, everyone, so it is almost midnight. The cameras have been shooting for just over an hour and a half now. I just checked the pictures, the single frames coming out of the 50mm time lapse. So I ended up doing a 50mm time lapse on the Nikon Z6 II, and I did the same 4-second shutter speed and 7-second interval, so same settings as the 35mm lens. And I'm curious to see whether you guys like the 50mm focal length time lapse or the 35mm more. Now, I think it's going to be quite a hard choice to choose, but we have some major differences in these compositions. The first one being in the 50mm time lapse, there is not as much water in the actual composition, and so I focused it more on the actual mountain. I did put a little piece of the water in there just to provide more perspective, but I wanted to kind of zoom in on that mountain, which hence why I used that longer focal length, and I thought that that brought a lot more detail on the mountain, and also made the Milky Way look a lot bigger, and that's one of the reasons why I like using longer focal lengths here and there depending on what I'm shooting and the subject of what I'm shooting. We do have a couple more nights here in Siskiyou County and Shasta, so we're actually planning on scouting some more locations tomorrow. I'll keep you guys updated with how that goes. I'm hoping to get some cool B-roll and test out some GoPro footage as well, as I am using my friend Samuel Thompson's GoPro. Shout out Sam, you're the homie, bro. Thanks for letting me use your GoPro. I'm trying to get some good B-roll with that, driving through the mountains. So tomorrow's gonna be an amazing day. We're gonna go on some longer hikes. I'm gonna scout some compositions, and I have one particular composition in mind, which is a railroad and the Mount Shasta and the Milky Way core. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get some Milky Way core images. Tonight I was not able to. Tonight I just focused on the northeastern portion of the Milky Way because I felt that what I wanted to capture here was Mount Shasta. That is the iconic landscape of where we're at right now, and unfortunately the core is in the opposite direction. In order to get the core in the actual pictures, I would have to travel on the other side of the mountain to get that composition. So that's what I'm hoping to do tomorrow, and if that goes well, you guys will be seeing me tomorrow night, and we'll get some amazing images as well. All right, what's up everyone? We are at this old railroad that I actually thought was non-operational, but a train just went by. So it's gonna be quite a mission tonight. I'm gonna have to dodge the trains while attempting to get a Milky Way shot here. So what you're seeing is an old railroad track with the Mount Shasta right behind me, and the Milky Way core actually lines up perfectly above this mountain. So I'm loving this composition. It's something that I found on Google Earth, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna line up correctly. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be a good composition. It just required me to do a bit more research and look on Google Earth, look on Google Maps to see where those railroads were. But I'm actually really surprised. This is the first attempt of me trying to find this railroad with lining up perfectly with the Milky Way and Mount Shasta, and it was exactly what I was envisioning. So like, that doesn't really happen too often when you have a vision and it's like the first try you get to a spot and it actually works out exactly how you're envisioning. So like I said, the Milky Way core is going to be rising above that mountain right there. It's gonna be setting on the right-hand side. And so I have to come out here around 1 to 2 in the morning to get that perfect alignment of the core over Mount Shasta. So what I'm planning on doing is coming here later tonight, setting up the camera to get some quick shots. I probably won't be able to do a time lapse here because the train this railroad track actually still is operational. So it's a bit too sketchy for me to be standing on this track and doing a longer time lapse. So what I'll probably end up doing is some stack shots of the Milky Way and just some longer exposures of the foreground. Maybe I'll try and get some track shots on the side of the railroad here that I can blend in with the foreground. But the leading line of this railroad straight into this mountain with the Milky Way over it is like an absolute dream composition. So I am so stoked that this is all lining up perfectly. So right now it's about 6 p.m. and this is about a 35-minute drive from the campsite. So it's not too far, but we are pretty tired as we were up pretty late last night already. So it's gonna be quite a mission. I think we're just gonna drive back to the campsite right now and take it easy and try to relax, maybe take a nap before tonight because it's gonna be a very long night. We have to stay out here until past 2 in the morning to get this shot that I'm envisioning. But we also passed by a really cool area with some lupines all over the ground, some lupine wildflowers in Mount Shasta as well. So I'm hoping to stop on that spot on the way home to check the Milky Way alignment, and hopefully that'll be a really cool alignment as well, because that would be an amazing composition with some wildflowers on the foreground and Mount Shasta in the background with the Milky Way core rising above that landscape. So that's the plan. We're gonna stop there on the way back, see if that lines up well, and if it does, what I'll probably end up doing is heading to that spot first on the way here to get some time lapses of the Milky Way core rising above Mount Shasta, and hopefully I'll be able to get some tracked Milky Way exposures as well, as I wasn't able to pull out the star tracker yesterday or last night. So I want to get those track shots and get some really good detail out of that Milky Way. That'll be blending into those foregrounds with the wildflowers. So sounds like a good plan for tonight. I'm just so excited, like I cannot wait for tonight. And yeah, with that being said, we'll probably head back to the campsite now, take it chill and rest until I'll see you guys later tonight. And welcome to another potential composition for tonight. Now, what you guys are seeing right here are lupines. They're a California native wildflower, and they're absolutely popping off at this spot right here. These are probably some of the biggest lupine patches I've seen in a really long time, maybe my whole entire life. Like, they're huge. A lot of the lupines that I normally see around Sacramento and Central California are a lot smaller. These ones are popping off. They're huge. There's big blossoms of them everywhere, and it's complemented by Mount Shasta in the background. We got a beautiful wide open sky with some of these cool looking trees. So this is an amazing potential composition for tonight, and I just checked photo pills. The alignment of the Milky Way is perfect. It's going to be over on the left-hand side here, rising above that mountain. At around 10:45, we'll start to see that core popping out on the horizon, and it's going to go straight over Mount Shasta. So I'm hoping to get some time lapses of the Milky Way core rising above Mount Shasta, and I'll also probably be doing a couple tracked long exposures of the sky using my star tracker and some longer exposures for the foreground. We're trying to get some really high quality, low noise images where I can highlight these beautiful wildflowers and, of course, the iconic Mount Shasta. So man, I gotta say, this trip has been unreal. Every spot that I've scouted so far has been beyond my expectations, and I just want to say how important it is to scope out your spots during the day before you come and do astrophotography. because it just gives you that extra level of confidence when you're out there under the night sky. You know exactly where to shoot your camera. You're not fumbling around trying to figure out where to set up your camera, what composition you want. Now I know exactly where I'm going to set up, exactly the composition I want to get here. So I have that extra level of confidence. It's going to be a really long night. I'm planning on going to another spot with that railroad leading into the Milky Way, and leading into Mount Shasta with the Milky Way as well. So man, I'm really got to head back to the campsite soon here and get some rest, because I want to be able to be refueled and recharged for tonight and get some amazing Milky Way core images. So I'm so excited to share the rest of my adventure with you guys, and I'll be seeing you guys in a little bit here. Wish me luck. All right, what's up everyone? So we're back at the Lupine spot with all of the blossoming Lupine wildflowers, and I haven't had a chance to take any shots yet. I just set up the 35mm Sigma lens on the Nikon Z6 II, and the goal for that is to get a time lapse of the Milky Way core rising above Mount Shasta. Hopefully I'll be able to get some lupines in there as well. You know, I want to highlight Mount Shasta, I want to highlight these wildflowers. Unfortunately, one challenge that I found at this spot is it is pretty close to the highway, so there's going to be a lot of cars and trucks driving by, and that's going to cast a decent amount of light on this foreground. So I really hope that's not too distracting in the time lapse, but there's nothing that I can really do about that. Even if I wanted to go further up towards the mountain, that would probably help a little bit, but there's less lupines up towards the mountain, and I really want to highlight the wildflowers here. That's one of the main reasons why I came to this spot. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, you know, so you have to make do with what you have. I hope that the lights shining on this foreground won't be too much of an issue, and it also sucks because it's going to be affecting this audio as well. So thank you guys in advance for, as you guys can see, the truck driving by. So thank you guys in advance for sticking with me with this audio. I'll do my best to edit out some of that, the trucks driving by. So with that being said, I'm going to work on this 35mm composition, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, everyone, so about to pack up the cameras, head over to the railroad spot. This spot, although really beautiful with these flowers and this composition is quite amazing, it's been proven to be really, really challenging. For whatever reason, cars literally have been driving by like every 30 seconds to a minute, and it's kind of crazy because we're in the middle of nowhere, I feel like, on Highway 97, like 30 minutes up the road, like pretty far away from town. Like, I don't know where people are going. I guess it's Memorial Day weekend, so there's a lot of cars on the road, which has been pretty unfortunate because it's been really hard for me to be able to get any foreground images without cars shining their light on the foreground, the trees, and it just ruins the shots because I don't want some unnatural light on this foreground. I want it to look very natural, and I don't want any of the foreground to be super bright with those car lights. So hopefully I got a few without the car lights in there. I think I did, and what I ended up doing was trying to do some focus stacking. There was a bit of wind as well, so I had to do some shorter exposures so that the flowers appeared more sharp, because longer exposures was making the flowers look a bit blurry. So I tried a few different things. I did some shorter exposures and focus stacking, and also some longer aperture like f8 and some longer longer exposures to see maybe if that would be a better way to expose it as well. And there goes another truck, and we have another truck coming by now. So you guys, as you guys can see, it's like every minute a huge truck drives by. So at this point, I'm kind of over it here, and I know that the railroad spot's going to be a much better composition, and without any cars driving by, it's much more inland, and there's not a main road. So I think we're going to just head over there now, and hopefully that alignment of the Milky Way core will be exactly where I want it to be by the time we get there. I'm gonna snap a few more videos of the Milky Way and the stars going over Shasta here. Then I'm gonna grab that 35mm time lapse, pack everything up, and I'll see you guys in a bit over at that railroad. As you guys can see, we made it to the railroad spot, and I am blown away by how dark the sky is here. We're only about 6 miles up the road from the previous spot with the Lupines, and I gotta say, it just looks even more dark here. Actually, it's even colder here as well. As soon as I got out of the car, I was like, wow, it's like pretty nippy out here. But I'm so blown away by these images. I just took a couple single shots just to test it out before taking this video, and it just looks absolutely amazing, super dark. The composition looks so cool, and I feel like the Milky Way is actually lighting up this railroad a little bit as well. So the leading lines of the railroad into the mountain, into the Milky Way looks so perfect. So the composition I'm looking to get is the railroad in the center of the frame leading straight to the mountain, with the Milky Way core going right above Mount Shasta. Now the Milky Way core is over to the left-hand side a bit more right now. The alignment is perfect, but I'm waiting for it to get just right above that mountain. So in about 30 to 45 minutes, it's gonna be perfect alignment. So what I think I'm gonna do is, I'm not sure, I'm really torn between doing a time lapse in horizontal mode or landscape mode, or if I should just switch it to vertical and do some shots like that and do some tracked Milky Way images. So I'm just kind of torn. I honestly don't know what to do. I really like how the horizontal framing looks, but I have a feeling the vertical framing is gonna look really good as well, because I'll be able to get more of that core in the picture. I'm going with the 35mm lens because I want to get more of a longer focal length and bring out more of that detail in the mountain. And I tested the 20mm as well, and I just didn't really like how some of the telephone poles and the wires were in the shot. So 35mm is going to be the composition or the focal length for this shot, I think. And 35mm seems to be the focal length for pretty much all of the shots I've gotten this weekend here. It's just like that sweet spot with that mountain and the Milky Way. So oh God, guys, I'm so excited to take these pictures. Obviously, you guys will see whether I get a time lapse or not, or if I just get some tracked Milky Way skies and some longer exposures for the foreground. So with that being said, let's get to this image session. I want to maximize my time here. It's about, what, like 2 in the morning almost. So it is pretty late, but I got a second wind after seeing how beautiful these shots are looking. So I'm gonna get to it, and I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, everyone, and that concludes another image session. This was such a productive, fantastic, beautiful night, and I got so many amazing images and time lapses. This whole entire weekend has just been a blast. Like, honestly, it just goes beyond my expectations. I gotta say, Shasta, Lake Siskiyou is such a beautiful area. If you're ever in Northern California and you would like to shoot some amazing pictures, I would highly recommend this area. So I gotta say, this railroad spot is definitely so much better than that Lupine area with all the Lupines, because all of those cars that were driving by were really stressing me out. They were, you know, it's just super loud, and it's not very relaxing trying to just enjoy the stars when all these big trucks and you're right by the road and they're just shining all of their lights all over the foreground. So that was definitely stressing me out, and it's kind of ruining a lot of the images. So this spot was just super peaceful. Can't really hear any cars or trucks or
anything for that matter. It's just been super quiet, and actually the light pollution here is even better. Like there's barely any light pollution at this spot, which is crazy. You just drive 6 miles up the road and makes such a big difference. I don't think there's a single shed of light pollution here. So it's super dark. I would say these skies are almost comparable to Lassen, which is one of my favorite places to shoot in California. Highly recommend Lassen as well. Now for this composition, what I ended up doing was setting up the Nikon Z7 with the 35mm lens, and I did some tracked Milky Way sky images. So I did a 3-panel panorama, and I ended up going with 2.5-minute exposures at ISO 400 f2.4, and I did 3 stacks per panel. So I think this is going to be an absolutely amazing Milky Way sky image. And I also did a longer exposure foreground with the leading line of this railroad that goes straight into the mountain. So I think this is going to be an absolutely fantastic image, and I'm so really looking forward to editing it and sharing it with you guys. So let me know what you guys think. And I actually set up a time lapse as well on the 20mm lens on the Nikon Z6 too. So I ended up doing a time lapse as well. So man, I didn't know what I was going to end up doing at this spot because it is on the train tracks, and I was a little bit worried that setting up a time lapse, it would be a bit risky since the train is still active, and I actually saw it earlier today. But this entire time I was here, didn't hear any trains, so I got really lucky with that. And I think this time lapse is going to be absolutely fantastic. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know this is a very long video, but it's just been so great sharing my adventures with you guys, and I really appreciate all of your support. So if you can give me a subscribe, a like, a comment, let me know what you guys think of these images, these time lapses. I really appreciate all of your support. It just motivates me to keep going, and I just love doing these videos. It just kind of inspires me to go the extra mile with my images and my photography. So like I said, highly recommend this area. If you're ever in Northern California, Shasta, Lake Siskiyou, super beautiful area, especially for astrophotography. It's pretty freaking dark here. So with that being said, it's about 4 in the morning, and I got a 45-minute drive back to the campsite. So I don't think I'm going to do astrophotography tomorrow. I'm probably just going to take it chill, take a nap by the lake, relax with some friends. And if I don't get out tomorrow night, then this will probably be the last time I see you guys. So thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Wait, is it Lake Siskiyou or Siskiyou Lake?
Lake Siskiyou.
Or is it Siskiyou Lake?
It's Lake Siskiyou.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So, pretty much, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to redo that.
Rolling again.
About to jump off this bridge.